All right, let's dive into one of the most, well, counterintuitive and frankly dangerous principles of power. It's a law that has literally built and destroyed careers and even empires for centuries.
It sounds totally backward, right? I mean, from day one, we're all taught to show off our talents, to be the absolute best we can be. But what if that very brilliance, the thing you think is winning you points, could actually be your downfall?
And there you have it. This is law number one, the most fundamental rule in the entire game of power. Now, this isn't about hiding your talents or playing dumb. No. It's about being incredibly strategic with how and when you let them shine. The whole point is to make the people in charge feel totally secure in their own brilliance.
So why is making this one mistake so catastrophic? Well, it really just boils down to some pretty basic human psychology. And you know, this is what's so wild, the massive gap between what you intend to do and what actually happens. You think you're showing how valuable you are, right? But your boss, your superior, they just see a threat. They see someone who makes them look a little less smart, a little less charming, and ultimately someone who could replace them.
History is just littered with stories of people who got this right and people who got it tragically wrong. So let's look at two perfect examples that show both sides of the coin.
On one side, you have a guy who just wanted to impress his king and somehow ended up in a dungeon for life. And on the other, you have a scientist who desperately needed money and ended up with a lifetime of support. The difference between them? It all came down to whether they understood this one single law. So let's start with Nicolas Fouquet. He's the finance minister for the young King Louis XIV of France. And his goal is totally simple, completely understandable. He wants to lock down his position and prove how loyal and valuable he is to the new king. And his plan for doing this was, well, let's just say it wasn't subtle. He throws this party at his brand new chateau that was so over the top, so breathtaking, that it made anything the king had ever hosted look like a backyard barbecue. We're talking the best food, the most incredible entertainment. It was the social event of the century. And Fouquet thought the king is going to love this.
Yeah, the king was not delighted. He was humiliated, utterly. I mean, how could his own finance minister have a house and throw a party more magnificent than his? It was an insult. The very next day, Fouquet was arrested on completely made-up charges. He spent the last 20 years of his life in prison. See, he didn't just outshine the master, he became a blinding sun, and the king just stuffed him out.
Okay, so now that we've seen how horribly wrong that can go, let's flip the script. What happens when you actually understand the master's ego and you play to it? Enter Galileo. He makes one of the greatest astronomical discoveries of his era. He finds the moons of Jupiter, and he is desperate for funding. But, and here's the genius move, instead of naming this huge discovery after himself, what does he do? He dedicates it to his powerful patrons, the Medici family. He calls the moons the Medicean stars, basically framing his own incredible scientific breakthrough as a tribute from the heavens to their greatness. And the result? The Medicis were thrilled. They felt important, elevated. They immediately appointed Galileo as their official court philosopher and mathematician, giving him the salary and the security he needed to do his work. He made them the sun, and he got to comfortably bask in their warmth. A very, very different story from Fouquet's cold prison cell, right?
So yeah, these stories from history are great, but how do we actually apply this in the real world? In our own jobs and careers? Here's a little playbook.
This is where the real art comes in. First, act a little naive. Go to them for their expert advice, even if you already know the answer. It makes them feel smart and masks your own ambitions. Second, take your brilliant ideas and give them the credit. You can say something like, just building on that great point you made last week. It makes them a co-creator. And finally, use subtle flattery. Don't just give empty compliments, praise a smart decision they made that led to a good outcome. This way, you get what you want and they feel like the genius who came up with it all.
Now hold on, because like any law of power, there are exceptions. This is not a rule you just follow blindly all the time. Knowing when to break it is just as important as knowing when to obey it. And the one key exception is what we call the falling star. This is a boss, a superior, whose position is weak, whose influence is shrinking. They're on their way out, and if you tie your wagon to them, you're going down with them. So if your master is weak, a gentle, strategic nudge can be all it takes to topple them. This is your moment to shine. For instance, let's say your manager is tanking and missing all their targets. You might just present a really well-researched, successful project directly to their boss. It's not about being ruthless, it's about being strategic. You have to outperform them, outmaneuver them, and show everyone that you are the clear successor. Power, just like nature, hates a vacuum.
But until that moment arrives, this is the one image you have to keep in your head. Your master is the sun. The sun gives off light and warmth, and everything grows in its presence. Let them be the sun. Put yourself in a position to benefit from their light, and believe me, you'll find your own way to the top.
So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Look around at your own world, your job, your industry. Identify the centers of power, the suns, and ask yourself, are you positioning yourself as a brilliant, loyal planet that orbits them? Or are you trying to become a competing star, casting a shadow that might just get you eclipsed for good? It's something to think about.